Nikki? I entered the auditorium, my voice echoing off the walls as I glanced around the space for a sign of my old friend. The school day has just ended, with swarms of students leaving the grounds right as I arrived. Seeing them in the halls and filling out of their classrooms had sent a wave of nostalgia rushing over to me. The fact that this is the second time this week that I've been back at this school is a strange feeling in and of itself. Checking over my messages from Nikki once more, I scroll up and make sure that this is where I'm supposed to meet him. Hey, Hazel, over here. A voice both familiar and strange echoes through the space, and I look up to find Nikki walking out of the stage in front of me. He smiles as I approach, resting his hands on his hips while I take the side stairs up onto the wooden stage. Nikki, it's been so long, I say as he extends his arm and hugs me in greeting. Too long, he chuckles softly. His warm breath ruffles my hair, and when he pulls back, I get a good look at him, hardly recognizing the man in front of me as the boy I knew 10 years ago. He must have been a late bloomer, because where he once stood a good few inches shorter than I am, he now towers over me. Not only that, but the glasses and slacks he wears only add to his mature appearance. As a teacher, he definitely looks the part. Wow, when did you get so old? I joke, and he lets out a snort of laughter. Look who's talking. Angel has turned into a full-blown adult. Who would have thought? Yeah. I wave a dismissive hand in front of him, at me, enjoying the easy banter. Nikki puts his hands on his hips, still grinning broadly. So, what did you bring for me to look over? He asks. He gestures for me to take a seat with him on the edge of the stage, and I sit and open the bag I brought with me, pulling out a few different fabric swatches and a notebook. The costumes are ready to be put together, so all I need is your approval on the designs and fabric. I then flip open my notebook, showing Nikki the designs I had put together for the costumes. They're perfect, he says with a grin, tracing a finger over the paper, exactly what I had in mind. And now the most important part, the fabric, I say as I spread the swatches out between us. For Romeo's tunic, there's the green or the navy, with silver or gold for the trim. Whichever one you don't choose, I can use for Mercutio. Let's go with that one, Nikki says as he points to the dark blue swatch with the silver trim. Okay, great. I scribbled the choice in my notebook next to Romeo's design. And for Juliet, I was thinking of this one here. I show him the scarlet velvet, and he nods his approval. Honestly, you've got a better eye than I do for these things. What you've put together already looks great. I'm excited to see the final product. I'm glad you asked me to help with the costumes, I say honestly, as I make a few more notes. It's nice to do something a bit different every now and then. And I still can't believe you work here, I add with a soft laugh, glancing around the place. It's so weird. It's actually a pretty good gig, Nikki says with a chuckle as he pushes his glasses up the bridge of his nose. I like being able to keep an eye on this place, make sure our rivals don't get too comfortable. Nice to see your motives haven't changed, I say with a small giggle. Laughing together with Nikki feels like just feels just like our old school days, as if barely anything has changed at all. When the amusement finally fades, he gives me a meaningful look. Does it feel strange being back here after all these years? It's actually not the first time I've been back, I say without thinking, quickly wishing I could take it back. He raises a curious eyebrow. It's not? When were you last here? I give him a tight smile and rack my brain for an excuse, something that won't raise his suspicions. Sarah wanted to come by and visit a few weeks ago for old time's sake, you know. You should have let me know. We could have made a real we could have made it a real reunion, he says with a fond smile. I let out the breath I've been holding, saying no more. I feel bad about lying to Nikki, but it's not like I can just go ahead and tell him the real reason I was here. He'd never understand. But then another thought occurs to me. Nikki has always been great at getting information and knowing everything that there is to know about the people around here. Perhaps I could use that to my advantage once again. Hey, do you remember Ivan Novik? I ask him, attempting to keep my tone casual. The hammer? Of course. Everyone remembers him. Everyone remembers him. Do you know what happened to him? He thinks quietly for a second. He disappeared right out of school. There were plenty of different rumors going around. Some say he joined a bigger gang, others that he was selling drugs. Knowing even, neither of those options would surprise me. He showed up again about 2 years ago, looking buff as hell. Caused a bit of trouble around town with a couple of buddies, working up gambling debts that got him banned from a few establishments, or so I hear. His nose wrinkles when his eyes settle on me. Haven't heard anything about him in a little while now. Why do you ask? Oh, no reason, I say dismissively. It was just something I was thinking about. Nicky nods slowly, his voice quiet when he speaks next. Angel, the hammer and the phantom, you all disappeared, didn't you? The phantom? I start after hearing Gray's old nickname spoken out loud, a little buzz going through me. From the couple high, remember? Nicky asks with a furrowed brow. He and Even are buddies now, or so I hear. He shakes his head as he thinks about it, his face darkening. I don't know what they're up to together, but with the both of them involved, it can't be anything good. I swallow hard, finding it increasingly difficult to look Nicky in the eye. Instead, I gather up the fabric swatches in front of me and start putting them back in my bag. Is everything okay? He asks, and I turn a brief smile on him. Yeah, fine. Why? He shakes his head and smiles. Sometimes I miss it, you know, the gang, the conflict, roaming the streets at all hours of the night, just looking for trouble, he says, staring off to the side longingly before he turns to me again. What about you? I guess sometimes, I admit. I think back on the gang and the friends we both spent our time with. I miss spending time lazing around on the roof in the sun, running around town just going crazy, It was a fun time. Yeah, it was, Nikki says with a smile. It's a shame that things changed so much. I would have liked to stay in touch. Me too. I'm sorry I didn't. I gave him a tight smile in return. It's really good to see you again, Nikki. Yeah, it's been great. He nods as he pushes himself off the stage and then helps me down beside him. We should catch up more often. Maybe go for dinner or something. I know the request is perfectly innocent, two old friends catching up over a meal, but when my thoughts drift to Gray, I hesitate. I've already got enough on my plate at the moment. I'm pretty slammed with work, but I'll see you at the play. Maybe we can have a celebrity drink afterwards. I'll bring Sarah too. That sounds great. I'll be saving a seat for you, he says with a smile before we say our goodbyes. With a last glance around the auditorium, I hoist my bag over a shoulder and head back to the store. I step into the back hallway after running home, ready to head up to my apartment and grab some dinner. Meeting with Nicky had been great, but it was nice to see him again after so long, but I couldn't shake off some of the things he had said, particularly about Even and Gray. It's no secret that Even is a regular at Gray's game nights, but after hearing Nicky's suspicion and knowing even better than I want to, I can't help but wonder why he would ever have an interest in something as simple as board games. And after thinking about it more and deep, it makes me question why someone like Gray would show such a big interest in them too. Something doesn't add up. I'm just about to head up the stairs when the back door opens and the man in question steps through into the hallway. Gray looks up at the sound of my footsteps, seeming surprised to see me. Hey, I greet him, a little hesitant after the way we parted the last time. Hey, he says as he shuts the door behind him, and to my relief, gives me one of those familiar crooked smiles. I've barely heard from you at all the past few days. You've been quiet, I say with a hint of disappointment. He rubs the back of his neck awkwardly, the keys still jingling in his hands. Yeah, I didn't want to disturb you. I don't mind being disturbed a little, I grin, prodding him a little more. I'll keep that in mind, he says with a breathy laugh, before pacing over to the basement stairs. Gray, I say out loud before he can disappear completely. I've been thinking, maybe I could sit in on your game tonight? His eyebrows deep, as though that wasn't what he was expecting me to say, and his keys jingle when he tightens his grip on them. Why would you want to do that? He asks, and I can tell the request has thrown him off. My eyes narrow at that. I've never seen him so uncomfortable before. Just to see what it's all about, I press, and in an instant, his hesitance disappears, replaced instead by a cool dismissiveness. It's pretty boring. I'm sure you wouldn't like it. You don't want me to come? I ask quickly. Doesn't bother me in the slightest, he shrugs. I'm only thinking of you. A small smile finds its way onto my face, and now I'm more determined than ever to secure an invitation to his game night. I think I can handle a couple of board games. I used to play all the time when I was a kid. Gray watches me for a few seconds, weighing up the decision in his hand. Eventually, he lets out a dramatic sigh. Okay, you can join in. Just give me half an hour to get everything set up and meet me downstairs. I give him a broad smile, happy he'll let me in on his secretive board game night. There's echo on the other side of the door as I approach, though when I lift my hand and knock, they all hush suddenly. I lean in closer, ear against the wall, outdoor, until it flies open in front of me, and Gray stands there, raising an eyebrow at me. Glad you could make it, he says with a smile, gesturing for me to enter. I let out an awkward giggle and follow him down the stairs. Gray looks suspiciously happier when I enter. Hazel, this is everyone. Everyone, Hazel. A chorus of greetings rings out, and with his hands on my back, Gray guides me to a chair set up between himself and Jet at a large round table. Good to see you again, Hazel, Jet says with a smile and the nod of his head. And then he leans in closer to ask quietly, So, Sarah didn't want to come with you tonight? Oh, I didn't actually ask her, I admit, wondering for the first time if I should have. Me being here was kind of just a whim. Stop pestering my guest, Jet. She's here to play a game. Gray waves a hand between us before taking his own chair and facing the table of players. Jet holds his hands up in front of him innocently and says no more. Are you ready? Grace asks. I give him a small nod, anxious yet excited to know what he's going to tell me. So the game is called Dragon, he explains. Okay. I glance over the empty table. Where's the board? It doesn't have a board, Gray answers. The pieces? No pieces either. You use your imagination. I frown at that. I've never played a game without a board before. Perhaps I've seriously misunderstood what board games really mean. We do, however, use these. Gray jangles a small pouch in front of me before tipping the contents into his palm and showing me the collection of dice sitting in his hand. Then he leans back in his seat and to speak behind me. Since it's your favorite game, Chet, I think you should be the Den Master, he says as he puts the dice back into the pouch and tosses it to his friend. Oh, I couldn't possibly. It was you who introduced me to Dragon in the first place. He pushes the pouch back to Gray, who scowls at him. I thought it was called Dragon, I say. Jet clears his throat quietly, his eyes shifting from side to side before resting on the table in front of him. It is. I was just testing you. Gray snatches up the pouch of dice, still glaring at Jet as he does so. Fine, I'll be the Den Master. Everyone needs to come up with a character. After some simple instructions on how to create our characters, everyone around the table takes turns describing who they'll be playing as. We end up with a few elves and dwarves, some humans, and even a goblin. When it comes to my turn, everyone looks at me expectantly. Oh, uh, my character is human, I guess. And their profession? Gray asks. I think quietly for a moment, deciding to go with what I know best. Uh, Seamstress for the nobles of the court. Let me guess. Her name is Hazel, he says dryly. No, it's not. I nudge his shoulder playfully and he chuckles. "Hmm, her name is Nova," I answer. Alright, Nova. I'll narrate the setting and then after that you can start us off, Gray explains. I nod in agreement, even though I still have zero idea what I'm doing. Holding the pouch of dice in his hands, he clears his throat dramatically and begins the game. It was a beautiful day in the kingdom of Basementia. A snort escapes Jed, his shoulders shaking with quiet laughter. Basementia, really? Oh, shut up. You had your chance to be the den master. Gray fires back at him, and for a moment I regret sitting between the two of them. As I was saying, it was a beautiful day in the kingdom of Basementia. Birds were chirping, maidens were singing, et cetera. I raised an eyebrow at Gray, wondering how many times he's played Dragon before now. There was a small town where a bunch of people lived, including all of your characters. The town was right outside the castle walls. Really? So elves, dwarves, and humans all lived together in the same town? Jet says in disbelief, folding his arms over his chest. Seems unlikely. Don't forget the goblin, I add, and Gray glowers at the pair of us. This is my game. When it's your turn, then you can decide who lives together. Dread mumbles something beneath his breath, and Gray continues his introduction. Suddenly, an enormous dragon attacks the town. It burns down half of the buildings and all of your homes. There's chaos everywhere, blood, screams, fire. He turns to me all of a sudden. Nova, what do you do? Oh, unprepared. I quickly rack my mind for some kind of answer. I help the people around me who are injured or scared. I decide out loud, not sure what someone else would do in that kind of situation. You'll need to roll a 10 or higher to be successful, Gray explains. He rolls the dice on the table in front of him, and as they all scatter, he silently adds the numbers together. 16. You hear a pained cry from nearby, and after searching for the source of the sound, you realize your neighbor is stuck in his house, his leg trapped under a fallen rafter. It was the same neighbor who had stolen one of your chickens just last week, and for a split second you consider leaving him there, but you just can't do it. Braving the flames surrounding you, you leap into the ruin and free the man, dragging him to safety. Upon inspecting his leg closer, you notice a nasty gash running up the side of it. Remembering the needle and thread in your home, you head towards the ruined building in search of it. Before you can take another step, the burning building crumbles in front of you, a wooden beam knocking you to the ground. "What?" I exclaim in surprise, then slump back in my chair. "Jed, it's your turn," Grace says as he ruffles my hair playfully, laughing softly when I push his hand away. "You come across Nova in need of assistance," he says to his friend, who wrinkles his nose in thought. I, Sir Brave, help Nova to her feet. "You could have come up with a better name than Sir Brave," Gray mocks as he readies the dice. "It was the best I could do at the time." Okay, Sir Brave. You only need to roll an 8 or higher." Gray tosses the dice on the table, adding them up again. "And that's a 7. You fail to help Nova to her feet." She gives you a dirty look as she pushes herself up and dusts off her dress, wondering why you didn't help her. "I tried," Jed protests. Next, Gray ignores him and continues the story. The fire is spreading, blazing so fiercely it will destroy the rest of the town if nothing is done soon. The game moves on to the player next to Jed, who scratches his head in thought. I go to the nearest tavern and order a drink," he says with a toothy grin, and Gray gives him a dumbfounded look. "A dragon has just destroyed half of your town, and you're going to go and have a drink?" "Yeah." "Alright then." Gray tosses the dice and the knots in an indication that the task is successful. You successfully locate the nearest tavern, which is miraculously still standing, and head inside. The barkeep is nowhere to be found, so you pour yourself a mug of ale. "Nice," says the next player. For my turn, I'm gonna join him at the tavern. Gray sighs and briefly closes his eyes. The point of the game is to work together to solve the issue at hand," he says tiredly, which currently would be the fire and the dragon. "Well, we only learned about this game 5 minutes ago," one of the men protests. The guy sitting next to the man elbows him quickly and quietly shushes him. "Wait, you haven't played this game before?" I ask around the table. There's an awkward pause before Gray cuts in. "He means the campaign. Each time you play, there's usually a different story." The players all give some kind of half-hearted nod in response, though I'm still frowning. "Oh, okay." I turn to Gray, catching the end of the death glare he throws across the table at the other guy before he rolls the dice once more. As you enter the tavern, the dragon returns and spews fire over the building. The place collapses, and the both of you suffer a nasty, fiery death. "Hey, what?" The 2 players who just have been wiped from the game throw their hands up in outrage. "That's what happens when you ignore what's going on around you," Grace says, the shadow of a smile tilting his lips. We go around the table one more time, though the story doesn't go very far, and the people of the town are still being ravaged by the imaginary dragon. The players seem to all be equally confused as I am, which makes me wonder if it really is the first time any of them has played the game. My turn comes around again, and I stop to think what could possibly help our characters in this situation. I rally my companions and arm them with whatever weapons we can find. Making a final stand against the dragon, I say with bravado, and my fellow players give an applause. Oh, risky move. You'll need at least a 19 to pull it off, Grace says with a grimace. He rolls the dice in front of him, adding up the total. 14. You fail to properly arm your allies. As a result, the dragon eats your companion, Gob the Goblin. The guy who was playing as Gob pouts and sits back in his chairs. I shrug helplessly at and mouth I'm sorry at him. Your turn again, Third Breed, and maybe pick something useful this time, Grace says cheerfully, seeming to be the only one who is actually enjoying himself. I safely take Nova away and ride off with her into the sunset. The end, Jet says with a scowl, and Gray thumps a hand against the table in front of him, making me jump. You can't do that. It's my character. I can do what I want. Jet fires back. You can't just ride off and leave everyone else to die. Well, I don't want to play this game anymore. Gray grits his teeth as he clenches the dice between his fists, his nostrils flaring wide. Fine, let's call it a night then, shall we? He pouts as he tips the dice back into their pouch, ignoring the grumbles of the players around us. Sounds good to me, Chet says with a grin. I look between them, confused. With the game night coming to an end, I hang back as everyone leaves, saying their goodbyes to Gray at the door. The two of us leaves the basement together, and when he turns back to lock the door, I linger for a little longer. I had fun, I say when he turns to me again, earning a disbelieving look from him. Really? Yeah, we should play Dragon Den again sometimes. Even if the game was confusing and chaotic, it was still a lot of fun. I haven't had a good break like that in a long time. Okay, sure. Gray agrees with a confused smile. A sound at the top of the stairs draws our attention, and we turn to find Evan standing there, peering down at the two of us. My stomach drops at the sight, completely unprepared for another confrontation with the man. Oh, look who finally decides to show up, Gray says as he heads up 2 steps towards his friend. A strange feeling settles over me as I follow, my tongue growing heavy in my mouth. I don't want to see Ethan, especially not after what had happened the last time he'd come into the store, and after all of the suspicions that Nikki has put into my head. I haven't told Gray what had happened that night, thinking that I can handle myself well enough, but that doesn't stop me from being wary of what Even is capable of. Looks like I missed out on a fun night, Even drawls, and there's something strange about his tone of voice. He looks around Gray and leers at me. It's only now that I see the puffy eyes and the drunken smile. Hey, pretty thing. He grins, revealing big white teeth. Alright, Even, time to head home. Gray puts a hand on the other man's shoulder and spins him towards the door. Even looks at Gray in confusion, seeming reluctant to leave. You cancel the game? He asks him. Game's over. You should have showed up earlier, Gray replies. You told me it was being pushed back to 9. I spent the last few hours drinking at the bar on the corner while I waited. Even Paul protests. Did I? I could have sworn I told you to show up at 7, Grace says, and I get the impression that's not what he had said at all. I don't know why exactly he would have wanted to keep Even away tonight, but I can't say I'm not grateful for it. No, you said, I think you said 9. Yeah, I'm sure you did. Even carries on as he plants his feet in the doorway. Oh well, there's always next time, right? Grace says with finality. It takes a little more convincing on Grace's part, but I watch quietly as he gently pushes Even through the door, wishing him a good night before locking in behind him. With Even finally out of the way, Gray turns back to me. You okay? He asks. Yeah, I say with a reassuring smile. He throws a concerned look towards the door, but returns to me with a smile. You should be careful around that guy. Why are you even friends with him? I can't stop myself from asking, earning a soft sigh from him. I wouldn't say we're friends, but I prefer keeping him close enough that I can keep an eye on him. It makes sense, and I start to realize that Nikki had it all wrong. The two of them aren't friends at all. Relief washes over me. Gray is different from how he was 10 years ago. He's more than just a phantom. You'll tell me if he does anything that makes you uncomfortable, right? Gray adds when I don't say anything. Of course, I say with a nod, and he seems satisfied with the assurance. At least it seems Gray is keeping an eye out for me. I really want to be able to trust him.